You are now tuning into the Resilient Podcast. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 45 of the Resilient Podcast. I am your host, Rob Aurelius. And as I mentioned, this is episode 45. And I am recording this episode this morning of New Year's Eve, December 31st, the very last day of the year. And only reason why I'm doing it now is because I have a trip planned to Connecticut later today. And I just wanted to get this out of the way. I just want, if I can, to describe how I'm feeling right now about everything. 2025, which has been a better year for me than it was last year, even though this year I did face some challenges. But this is going to be a short episode. Why? Because I do have to get ready for my trip. But I wanted to speak with you all before, the ball drops and it's officially 2026. So let me tell you how I feel at this very moment. And, right now, everything feels fresh. Nothing feels distant yet. Nothing has had time to fade. And today, Wednesday, December 31st, I'm sitting here processing everything. The memories, the milestones, the heartbreak, the breakthroughs, the things I lost from the beginning of 2023 to the things that I gained, and back to the things I lost in 2024, and then the things I gained, and then the things I lost in 2025, and then the things that I gained back. And the parts of myself I fought to rebuild. This isn't just another episode. This is a pause before the new year begins. A moment to breathe. A moment to honor the journey. A moment to acknowledge that resilience isn't about ending the year strong. Sometimes it's simply about still being here. And, first of all, it is very cold here in New York. It's been very, very cold. We had some snow recently. I'm heading over to Connecticut now, and it's going to be even colder out there. And I know people ask me all the time, why would you go to Connecticut for New Year's, knowing that it's much colder? Listen, I was there last year. It's where I have been the last 3 years. 2023, I spent it in Hartford. 2024, I didn't see myself spending it in Hartford, but there I was. And then again in 2025, and now 2026. So much has happened this year. There has been changes in my life. Some of them were positive. Some of them were negative. I found myself a new office space because the place that I was in, I felt like no longer was accommodating me the way they should have. And I felt bad because, I had been with them for a few years, and it was a very nice space out in Brooklyn near my home, but it just wasn't, delivering, and I needed to find something new, and I'm glad I did. And I'm much happier where I am now, much, much happier, and I feel free. And then, as I mentioned to you all before, I parted ways with Dolce and Gabbana after about a decade long run on and off. And, it's funny because during the holidays, I had my old account executive reach out to me multiple times, even before the holidays, entertaining the idea of like, hey, there's still a way that you can come back, but you'll be working under me. And I said, I got to think about it, because when I returned to Cody, I felt happy. I felt good. Even though I was under a lot of pressure, there was a lot expected from us. These daily goals that we had to reach, to market. We had a lot. We actually had an event, several events actually, but we had this one event a few days ago for Marc Jacobs' new fragrance called Murakami. It is 4 limited edition fragrances that came out, and we had to promote it. And we didn't even have merchandise to promote at the location there it was, because it had been sold throughout the holiday, which is a good thing. But it's always good to have product, right? So with everything just being said, I'm glad that I survived the holidays with the seasonal depression and everything. I'm glad that I was able to overcome so many things, because I was starting fresh again, even though I was coming back to an old environment, but I was starting fresh. I had been away for a while. I had parted ways with Cody in 2022, only to find myself back with them in 2025. And I was nervous and I was scared. And I was like, what if this time around things don't work out again? What if this time around things are different? What if this time around maybe Cody's going to give me a little bit of like, the cold shoulder for leaving at one point? But no, everything went well. I made a lot of money. Serlini, who is part of the reason why I came back to Cody, very sweet woman from Brazil. She fought very hard for me to come back, and she opened the doors for me, and I'm thankful for her. That's why when the holidays were over, I gave her a nice gift, and she was like, "You didn't have to." And I said, "No, Selene, this is for helping me." I could have spent the holidays in my office, bored out of my mind on the days that I didn't have much work to do, but thanks to her, she kept me busy. And one thing about Selene is that she's a very busy woman. She's a busybody, and so am I. She's much more of a busybody than I can ever be in my life, but she understands the hustle. She understands the grind, and she understands that most people do not want to be at home losing their mind, and some people don't even want to be just not doing anything. So, thankful for her. But, I was telling my friend who had asked me, hey, like, you haven't done an episode of TND year. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it tomorrow. And they're like, you're doing it tomorrow? I was like, yeah, I'm doing it tomorrow. I was like, and you're going to have time to upload it and all of that? I was like, of course, absolutely. We've done it before. And they said, well, how does it feel recording this episode on December 31st? Like literally tomorrow. And I'm like, honestly, it feels heavy, but it's necessary. And I'm not recording this as someone who has everything figured out. I'm recording this as someone still learning. And, I'm still grieving parts of this year. I'm still grieving parts of last year, still trying to understand certain moments. But I'm also recording this as someone who survived 2024, which was one of the worst years of my life, and surviving 2025. And to me, that means something. The post-production was not easy. And, Unfortunately, a few days before we were getting ready to release this documentary, finally, another hurdle came in, and there was so many unexpected changes. And just like in the process of the post production, unfortunately, we ran into some issues. So we were all mentally burnt out. And, my last day of work was Sunday, December 28th. Diego was burnt out. Oscar was burnt out. So we just decided to take a reset. We had to do a reset. And when we decided this reset, a lot came into mind creativity wise. The original content that was already ready to be published, we had to just look at it again. And I wasn't content with it. And Diego had suggested some ideas. And, me being one of the creative people in this team, I was just not happy with the product. And I'm being very honest with you. People don't do this. You never see directors or producers or people that create projects literally talk publicly about these things, but I just wasn't happy with it. So we've decided to do something else. The Resilience documentary will not be shown this year. It will not be shown at all. And that's why here in this episode, I'm addressing it. I know it's the final day of the year, and I know that yesterday a lot of people were expecting the documentary, and I'm very sorry for that. And I did make a public apology online as well to all my followers on my social platforms, but I think it was the best thing to do. I didn't just want to give you guys something that was not going to work. So therefore, I wanted to make it very clear, like I said in the post that I posted a few days ago, that there's going to be 3 parts of the documentary. The first part comes out now, January 23rd, following the second part, which will be February 13th. And then the final part of this documentary will come out on March 21st. If you think about it, January 23rd is 1, 2, 3. And the opposite of that is 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1 is the day that her and I broke up. On March 21st, this year coming up, it will make 2 years since her and I broke up. So what I did was I played with the numbers a little bit. And that's where I came up with the idea of 1, 2, 3, because the thing is, even the original date from yesterday, which was 12:30, it's 3, 2, 1 backwards, right? If you think about it, 0, 3, 2, 1. So I know it's funny and it's a little cheesy, but I just wanted to make it very clear for everyone out there. The first episode of the Resilience Tribune project that we worked on, the Resilience Project, will air January 23rd. And it will be available on YouTube for everyone to see. And I will fill you all in with more information. So then, my friend goes to me, tomorrow is going to be 2025 New Year's Eve, entering 2026. What are you most grateful for as the year ends? And I said, And I had to think about this long and hard. And I remember exactly how I responded. I said, I'm grateful for the people I'm grateful for the people who stayed. The people that checked on me, because trust me, folks, when I say this, I'm not looking for sympathy, but for the people that checked on me this year, I'm so thankful, because I didn't have many people check on me this year. I had people last year, oh my God, Rob, I'm so sorry, this and this and this. And then this year came along, it was crickets. It was people that were part of the journey. Like I mentioned before, there was people that were part of the journey before that just were not part of the journey this year. And that was their decision. That's because they chose that route. They felt like they no longer served any purpose in my life. and they just moved on. And it was just me, myself, at times my therapist, my great friend Shirley, who was there to listen to me during so many times. Even Diego listened to me a lot. James, I spent so much time talking to James about a lot of things. And James was very busy this year. James was not as available this year as he was last year. But, even Oscar, so many things had changed in Oscar's life, and Oscar wasn't available like he once was to me at some point. And I was like, look, you can't take things personal. You just can't take things personal. And, those are some of the moments that grounded me. And I'm grateful for the growth that didn't feel like growth at the time. Very grateful for that. When my 39th birthday came around and I was like, oh yeah, I had plans to do this, I had plans to do that. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to do a simple photo shoot that Diego and I put together, and I'm staying in New York. No big plans for the 39. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is your last year in your 30s. What are you doing? You need to go out there and do something, or you're going to save it for your 40s. It's like, yeah, I'm going to save it for the big 40. I'm going to be 40 years old soon. 4.5 months from now, I'm going to be 40 years old. My brother turned 50 this year. So, man. But, folks, I think the most important thing is that I'm grateful for the version of myself that refused to give up. And, in the back of this hat that I'm wearing right here, and I wore this hat in the last episode, the front of the hat says hustle, loyalty, and respect. But the back part of the hat says never give up. And I wear this hat with pride because John Cena retired this month. Oh, and speaking about that, I want everyone to take a moment to visit the Resilience Tribune website, because there is a new article that I posted a few days ago, which is a letter to John Cena. And you can actually go on our website right here, resilienctribune.com/publications, and it will take you directly to that episode, to that article. And I want you to check it out and see what I wrote to John Cena, because it was a letter that I wrote from the bottom of my heart. And everything that John Cena endured during his career, his 23 plus year career with the WWE, inspired me to do so many things. And one of those things was to never give up. And, I know I talk about people like Cody, and I talk about Roman, and I talk about Rock, and, I talk about Cena. And these are pivotal people in my life, people that have helped me navigate. My grandmother passed away a few years ago. It's been 6 years that my grandmother is gone now. And she was one of the most motivational, inspirational people that I've ever had in my life. And with her not being present, I'm thankful for those folks that keep me grounded and those folks that keep me inspired. So, shout out to Cody Rhodes. Shout out to Roman Reigns. Shout out to The Rock. Shout out to John Cena and everyone else that has inspired me so much. Because like I said, I'm grateful for the version of myself that refused to give up, even when it would have been easier to just give up. So I'm glad I never did. So, folks, I'm going to take a moment to once again give a shout out to some of the people that support this journey and everything. And, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Maddie Rock for having some of the best coffee on earth for all my coffee drinkers out there. See this link right here? Visit this link and you will try some of the best coffee on this earth for yourself. And you can thank me later. And as you can see right here, that's our code. When you shop for that coffee, you get 10% off your order. And when you sip on this coffee, let me know what you think. But, I'm going to take a brief pause, a few seconds. We'll be right back. And when we get back, we're going to finish this episode strong. And I have a few more things to share with everyone. But we'll be back in about 30 seconds or so. So I'll see you all soon. Welcome back to the Resilient Podcast, the last episode of the year, episode 45. I just remember how the last episode of last year was, how sad I was. And, even though this episode is on reflection, I feel good, folks. I feel really good. I feel that I have bounced back from adversity so much this year. Like I said, when earlier in this year, I wasn't happy with the office space that I had, and I parted ways and my lease was up and chose not to renew it. I found a new office space within days. When I, knew that there was no growth for me where I was currently with Dolce & Gabbana, I bounced back and I was working with Cody. I literally, closed one door and opened another. And I don't know how many people can do something like that. The same day that, I realized, okay, that's it. I gave it all I got. Goodbye, Dolce & Gabbana. I was saying hello to Cody. And, I couldn't even, it took me time to think about that. It took me time to say, wow, I literally, within hours of parting ways with one brand, I was already getting ready to onboard with another one. And, it could have been a situation where I could have reached out and to the people at Cody, and they could have been like, hey, sorry, but, we already have. But the thing is, Cerlini, the day prior had reached out to me one more time and said to me, listen, this is your final chance to get on board with us this season. Are you available? And I remember initially saying to her, like, but, as I went back to New York from Washington, D.C., because I was in Washington, D.C. shooting a video for the John Cena farewell. This was November 10th. I was in Washington, D.C. I kept thinking about it. And on my way back, I'm thinking about it. So the next day, Veterans Day, that's where I finally made my decision and said, you know what? I had some time to process this. I'm ready to say yes. I'm ready to move on. And I did. And I was talking about this with my friend yesterday. My friend was like, listen, man, like, I don't know how you do it, but how you just, closed one chapter and began a new one, like instantly, man, that takes a lot of resilience. I was like, it sure does. So my friend goes to me, I know you've answered this question before to others, but now I want to ask you this question. Since we're on the topic of resilience, what does resilience mean to you right now as we end this year? And I said, right now, resilience means breathing, not rushing the healing part, not forcing closure. And, just allowing myself to exist with everything I feel without shame. And my friend's like, man, I feel like it's always going to change your response about what does resilience mean to you is always going to change. And I was like, it probably will. It probably will. So, folks, I have a message for everyone that tunes into the Resilient Podcast. Before the year ends, I want to share something very, very important with you all. And I want you to think about this. If you made it to today, December 31st, 2025, the last day of the year, you didn't lose. Even if you tried, even if you're unsure, even if you're still healing, you made it through another year of life. And that's all that matters. That matters so much. And I want you to take this very moment as I'm speaking to pat yourself on the back, to hug yourself, to thank yourself, to look at yourself in the mirror if you can and say, thank you so much for never giving up. Thank you so much for pulling through. Thank you so much for showing up. Because, folks, we have to give ourselves credit when it's due. We have to make ourselves happy. And, I did mention I was going to keep this episode brief, and that's exactly what I intend to do. But I want to take this moment before this episode ends to, again, thanks to For Your Wear for a great partnership. They have our exclusive merchandise on their website, and by clicking here, resilient.com/TRP shop, more merch will be added next year. And I'm looking forward to it. And folks, a percentage of your purchase will go to a charity that helps millions of people around the world. Also, in times like this, especially like with me, that I suffer from seasonal depression, what I do to remain calm in these type of situations is I take, this special pharmaceutical formula that focuses on anxiety, because I suffer a lot from anxiety. And when you visit Nala Health's website right here, nalahealth.com, and you check out their products, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. For those that deal with seasonal depression, check out Nala's formula for anxiety. And if you're having a hard time sleeping, check out their formulas for insomnia. I take it every week, and it's been helping me sleep better, especially the anxiety. I look forward to days now because, especially like during the post-production process of this whole entire documentary, which has been so overwhelming for myself, for Diego, for everybody, like how I remain calm is by using Nala Health's products, and trust me when I say this, you won't regret it. You know how people say things like, oh, certain things work for certain people. This works for everybody. And I promise you that. So go on their website right now, or after this episode, or whenever you can, and check out their formulas. They have standard CBD. They have phytoceutical oils formulas for anxiety, for addiction, for insomnia, for inflammation. And, the list goes on and on and on. Again, right here is our code, And using that code, you receive a discount on your purchase. So again, thank you, Nala Health. Thank you for your wear. Thank you, Maddie Rocks Coffee, for supporting the journey, for supporting the podcast, for being partnered up with the podcast this year. And I look forward to the continuing of this partnership next year. So, folks, in today's cards from James, I have a card right here that says, to accomplish, we must not only act, but dream. And what that means is, don't just dream about being somebody. Go out there and do it. Don't just think or entertain the idea of doing something. Go out there and do it. Make sure that actions take over. We can sit there our entire life and dream of who we want to be. And the only way we're going to accomplish it is by acting on it. You know, dreaming is going to get us so far, but acting on it is going to get us even further. And it's okay to continue to dream. I dream all the time. I dream about so many things. I've dreamed about so many things that I want to do for next year, and I'm going to act on them. But remember, not to accomplish, we must not only act, but dream. People will say, to accomplish, we must not just only dream, but also act. And it's the same thing. But make sure that you get it done. So before I go, before I put episode 45 into the books, knowing that 5 episodes from now will be episode 50 and it'll be another milestone, I want to leave you all with one more message. This is my message to the world. My final message for 2025. Wherever you are right now, thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for listening to the Resilient Podcast. Thank you for growing with me. Thank you for allowing me to be human. And as the clock strikes midnight tonight, I'm not promising perfection. I'm not promising anything but effort, compassion, and resilience. I want to thank you all again for being part of this journey and for tuning in every month to listen to a man by the name of Rob Aurelius speak. I'm very thankful for that. And I so look forward to 2026. Because 2026 will be full of compassion and resilience. And I so look forward to it. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I can't believe this is the final episode, but this is it. And always remember, folks, to remain resilient no matter what. And I love you all from the bottom of my heart. I'll see you all in the new year. And this is episode 45. And on behalf of the Resilient Podcast, I am Rob Aurelius, your host. And folks, I'll see you soon. Happy New Year and happy holidays. God bless. Peace.